Speaker.
Let us pray. Almighty God, where you have called us to govern this province, we ask your help to make decisions and laws that will be just and will promote the interests of the people. Almagtige God, ons bid dat u gedurende ons vergaderings ons die nodigheid wysheid sal gee en ons motiewe suiwer sal hou en dat u ons sal help om ons tekortkominge te oorkom en al ons besluite aan u op te dra. Sikelele elizwelethu nambantu balo, umesele umkulunga kipondo letu. Nkosi sikelele I Afrika, kina abantuano bayo, kokela inkokeli zayo, inike ukolo I Afrika. All this we beg in your holy name. Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. Honourable members, I would just like to, for noting, thank Mr. Charles Pradar today, who has been here for 36 years and will be retiring this year. So thank you, Mr. Charles Pradar, for all the work you did. Thank you very much. Order members, let me just give me a second. Before we proceed, I'd just like to remind members about some of the logistical arrangements. Good morning to everybody here, to all our members online and to our guests out in the gallery. I'm not going to go through too much of the logistics. You do know that your audio and visual needs to be clear if you're online, and this is a hybrid sitting. We also note that the media have been granted access and that any members of the public or the media, please to not interject, have any comments or switch on your microphones or video cameras during the sitting. And honourable members are reminded that no interjections are permitted during the hybrid sittings in terms of Rule 40 of the standing rules. I now recognise the Honourable Bartman.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I move that notwithstanding the provisions of Rule 18, the hours of sitting for Monday, 5 December 2022 today shall be 10 o'clock until adjournment.
Thank you very much. Any objections? No objections? Agreed to. I recognise the Honourable Bartman.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I move that notwithstanding Rule 163, the House considers the principle and finalisation of the Western Cape Adjustments Appropriation Bill B3/2022 on Monday, 5 December 2022 today.
Thank you very much. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No objections. Agreed to. Thank you very much. I now recognise the Leader of the Opposition, Honourable Doug Moore.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Also, good morning to all the honourable members. Deputy Speaker, I just seek your guidance. You would be aware that the motion that was moved on Friday now appears below the line. What I would like to ask, just in terms of proceeding with this particular motion, is whether the Secretary of the Legislature, we understand from the ATC that the membership of the former Speaker has ended, but firstly, can we just clarify to the House whether a vacancy has in fact been declared, number one, and secondly, given the resolution that was passed last week around the Secretary dealing with all matters which may potentially involve litigation, whether there has been any further update, any further information received by the Secretary. I think those are all important things to clarify before we consider how to process this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Doug Moore. So first, remember this motion is below the line. First, in terms of process, you need to request precedence. We can't discuss anything while it's below the line. So if you want this above the line, you need to request that to me now on the record.
No, I understand that, Speaker.
I can't answer.
Sorry, Deputy Speaker. I understand that. But what I'm saying is that this particular motion is based on certain information that we had on Friday. So what I'm seeking clarity on is whether a vacancy has in fact been declared or not, and whether, as per our resolution on Friday, there's any new information that this House needs to be made aware of. So I would like clarity on those questions before moving that this motion is lifted to above the line.
Okay, so as a presiding officer, I can only deal with two matters. I'm sure you could get that answer once you've moved it above the line, but I can only approve or disapprove above the line, and then I can only approve or disapprove of it then moving towards a potential vote. It is correct procedure, and I can only focus on those two. Unfortunately, Honourable Doug Moore, I cannot make any assumptions of information which is not in my mandate as a presiding officer.
No, Speaker. I do want to move in terms of our rules that this motion is placed above the line, but I would like to request that if the table as constituted today can provide that information, or if not, then the Secretary of the Legislature briefs this House before we proceed with the motion.
Honourable Doug Moore, we can only do two things. Until then, nothing can happen. There's hundreds of motions below the line. You have to follow that process if you want to get to the point you want to get to.
Yes, we move. I move in terms of our rules that this motion is lifted above the line.
Thank you very much. Are there any objections to the motion being moved above the line? There are no objections. I agree to. I now recognise the Leader of the Opposition.
So thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, in terms of discussing this particular motion, which, as you know, clearly resolves to mandate the Secretary of the Legislature to make contact with the President of the Constitutional Court and ask the Constitutional Court President to delegate a judge. Sorry. 1 minute,
Honourable Doug Moore. Can I ask you to read the motion into the paper,
yeah,
please,
I will do that
before any comments, so that for the record it's there.
Okay, I think it's all on honourable members' order paper. That the House, noting the ATC published on the 1st of December 2022, stating that the former Speaker, Mr. Masizole Mkhasela, is no longer a member of his political party and thus no longer a member of this House, resulting in a vacancy in the position of Speaker, and further noting that Section 20 of the Provincial Constitution requires that the Provincial Legislature must fill a vacancy, and believing that the Legislature cannot operate without a Speaker, that this House resolves to mandate the Secretary of the Legislature to make contact with the President of the Constitutional Court as per Section 22 of the Provincial Constitution to designate a judge to oversee the election of a new Speaker by no later than next week. Right.
Thank you.
Now,
so you're moving that in your name?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and you may.
But as I'm saying, Speaker, for the purposes of the debate on this motion, we need to be empowered as this House. We have passed a resolution which delegated the authority to deal with matters of litigation to the Secretary. I think it's not practical, it's not possible or desirable for us to proceed and deal with a motion like this unless this House is provided with full information. I think it would be a serious dereliction of duty if we proceeded with a motion like this and yet certain information is withheld from this particular House. So that is the request that I would like to make.
Thank you, Honourable Dugmore. So in terms of the process again, the motion's now been moved above the order paper, above the line. We have to now afford parties declaration of 3 minutes and a vote. That has to come through. I can't stop it for some information that might be or might not be here. We're voting on the fact that you've brought the motion above the line, and that has to go to the vote. Thereafter, you can proceed with further information, but I can't stop the process in terms of the motion itself, because remember, it's a vote.
Deputy Speaker, I'd like to express a view on this. I think it is against the code of conduct of members of this legislature and staff who have access to certain information to not share it with this House. And I think that it is not acceptable that members are asked to speak on a matter which we have now agreed to do without this House being provided with the information. And if that information is not provided, you are aware that there is a rule which allows the mover of that motion to withdraw the motion.
Sure.
So I would like to ask if you could indicate to this House, and even if we have to have an adjournment and you can engage with the Speaker or the legal advisor, anyone who may or may not have received correspondence, so that we can go into this discussion with full information. So I'm asking you, Deputy Speaker, to consider that request and also consider an adjournment if you need to consult about whether or not there's new information. I've asked, has a vacancy formally been declared? I've asked, is there any other correspondence which has been provided?
Thank you very much. Honourable Sayed, your point of order.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, it's not a point of order, could I then just request that we have at least a 5-minute adjournment before we resume with the sitting, also just for parties to consult each other. Thank you.
Honourable Bartman, Acting Chief Whip.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, in terms of Rule 20 of this House, we have brought a notice of motion above the line as moved in the name of the Leader of the Opposition in terms of notice of motion rules, in terms of Rule 151. The motion has thus been moved after that when the Leader of the Opposition read it into the record. The rules of the House now dictates that we actually need to decide on this motion. Should political parties wish to make a declaration on this motion, obviously that is for the House, but we actually need to now vote in terms of the rules of this House on this particular motion. To my knowledge, the information was in the tabling as is indicated in this notice of motion on the 1st of December 2022, and if there was any new information, I have not seen it in a subsequent tabling, but legally the House has already moved the motion and now this House must decide upon that matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable Sayed, can I just, if you could just indulge with me for a second, do you want the 5-minute break to consult with your party on the process? I cannot entertain on knowledge. If that's okay, I will grant you that 5-minute break, and if we can then come back and vote. Thank you. The House is suspended for 5 minutes. Honourable members, am I able to proceed with the 3-minute declarations? Honourable Dugmore, in order to follow the process.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, it's clear that we are here today discussing this motion because of deep and serious factional divisions within the DA. That's why we are here. We have an unprecedented situation where the leader of the executive, the premier of this province, has given an instruction to the former speaker to actually vacate his position. In the first place, that is a classic breach of the separation of powers. So we have a premier who, in fact, we believe has breached his code of ethics because he has interfered directly in a matter of the legislature. Secondly, we notice a trend in the DA that if you do not happen to be white, if you are African or colored, you tend to be dealt with in a certain way. And we've got many exampple of that
Order, members.
Where mayors of Saldanha...
Order, members. Can we allow everyone... One minute, Honourable Dugmore. 1 minute, Honourable Dugmore. Just have a seat. I just need to retain order. Honourable members, everyone is going to have... Honourable members, please can I have your attention? Honourable Karma. If I can just please get through this. It's 3 minutes. Everyone is afforded 3 minutes. So let's allow Honourable Dugmore his 3-minute right, as everybody else will. Honourable Dugmore, you may proceed.
How many minutes left?
Of justice, and that is why the DA is perceived out there as a party of the elite and a party that actually undermines the interests of broadly black people, coloured and African. So that's a matter of record. Interference by the Premier, breach of racism, kangaroo courts within the DA, and these are the issues which have actually affected this legislature. That is why we believe it's absolutely critical for the formal vacancy to be declared and then the election of the Speaker to proceed. The problem, however, is, and I want to place it on record, that we have asked through you, Deputy Speaker, and the table to provide us with information. If it should emerge that information was withheld from this House, then there are going to be serious consequences, because that questions the very integrity of the Deputy Speaker and of the staff of this legislature. Because we know we passed a resolution mandating the Secretary to inform us. The Secretary is not here today. He's not here in front of us, which is a serious problem, because then party matters are being placed above the interests of this legislature. So from our point of view, for the sake of stability in this House, for the sake of actually making sure that we follow our Constitution and that we follow the provisions thereof, that we need to move towards the election of a Speaker to fill the vacancy that exists. But what is happening here, the chaos that has been caused in this legislature without any due process in regard to the Speaker, lies at the door of the Democratic Alliance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Dugmore. I now recognise, I'm just going to say, Al-Jamal, would you like to make a declaration?
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker.
Sorry? All parties? Yes. Would you like to make a declaration?
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Yes, thank you for the opportunity. Honourable Deputy Speaker, yes, it is very important for the business of this House that when we continue, or if we continue with any business from today, from this morning, it is first of all, it is very difficult for us to proceed with any business without a Speaker. And when it comes to the powers of the Speaker, those powers are so decisive and so important that it is virtually impossible for us to continue with any business of the House. When it comes to yourself, Honorable Deputy Speaker, you are the Deputy Speaker. And whenever the Speaker is not in the House, then you are fulfilling that role. But that does not give you the same powers, the exact same powers as the Speaker itself. So on behalf of the Al-Jama, we also want to make a plea to the House on this beautiful Monday morning that before we proceed with any of the business of the WCPP going forward, that if we can, by all means, complete the process of electing a speaker. I thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I recognize Good. Are you online?
Morning, Deputy Speaker and everybody else. No declarations, thank you.
Thank you very much. I note by written correspondence that the EFF are not online today. I recognize the ACDP.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I do not want to play political games with this. This is an important debate, but for the ACDP, it's important to bring back some stability and also bring back what is best for the provincial parliament. And it is a new for us, first time that we're sitting without a speaker. And of course, you know, like Al-Jama said now, that there's certain roles and responsibilities that are done by the speaker that cannot be done by the deputy speaker. So I would also, you know, ask that we look at how soon can we get the election of a speaker, or what is the interim measure in order to bring stability. Everybody just, I see what we see in the media, and what we saw the other day in the House, that, you know, we don't have a speaker, and the problems that we have. But I don't think, from my side, I don't think there is, I think business can continue, but the uncertainty without a speaker is problematic. And I would want us to make, you know, from the ACDP side, to make a decision what is best for provincial parliament and not make a political game out of this. So that is my request, Speaker, that we think rationally and that we think of the people of the Western Cape. They look to this legislature to give guidance and direction. And if we can assure that there is stability, that there is, you know, progress in electing a speaker, then I think we've done well. Because remember, also now we're going on recess, and I don't think it's a good thing to have a recess and come back next year with not a speaker elected. So that is all from the ACDP side. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable Makamba-Botia, I see, even though that I have received correspondence, you are online. Would you like to make a declaration?
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. My apologies for that. In fact, with the EFF, we are actually in support with the sentiments of the leader of the opposition party. It is clear, Deputy Speaker, that the DA is actually botching the processes and dragging us in their squabbles without following the due processes of the parliament. So with that being said, with the EFF, we are also in support of what the ANC is saying, that we need this House to follow the processes and take us into confidence pertaining to this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much to you, Honourable Member. I now recognise the Democratic Alliance.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Order, members. Honourable members, remember, declarations can be done by any member of the House. He is a Democratic member. Honourable members, remember we gave everybody opportunity of 3 minutes. Sorry,
the same
Premier.
person who asked the Speaker to resign.
No. Can we just remember we're following due process? The Democratic Alliance has the right to select anybody to speak on their behalf. I now reckon, no.
I'm just saying.
Honourable Lily, he is a member of this House. So I would like to proceed. Honourable Premier, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. First of all, I rise specifically to counter a point made by the Leader of the Opposition saying that the Premier in this case, and in actual fact, I did receive the whistleblowers' accounts.
Order, members. Order, members.
I did receive the whistleblowers' accounts, and I did receive their request for protected disclosure.
If you can sit, Premier. Honourable Said, what's your point of order?
Is the Honourable, I'm not sure whether he's speaking as the Premier or the leader of the DA caucus, is willing to take a question.
This is a declaration, Honourable Said. This is not a debate. Honourable members, can I just remind you about the rules? This is a declaration. Honourable Nkondlo, this is a declaration, not a debate. So remember, there's no opportunities for questions. The DA can do their 3 minutes declaration, and there can't be interjections around what he's saying. You may stand up, Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The ANC must know they brought the motion. They need to at least listen. So, first of all, I received a protected disclosure with allegations of serious corruption and misconduct. I informed the whistleblowers that as the Premier, I could not act. If they'd only just listen, as the Premier, I could not act because there's a separation of power. What I did do was I said to them that I will, as the caucus leader, engage with the Speaker, which I did do. Gave him the detail. But I also said to the Speaker that I am obliged to hand this information to the police, which the DA did do, number one. Number two, it is impossible for whistleblowers within an organization to ask for a protected disclosure and then for me to hand those very documents to the organization of which the person that they are accusing sits at the lead.
Order.
Please listen to what I've just said.
Order, members. Members. Honourable Said, can you just please, we have to allow the 3-minute declaration.
This
All right?
is absolutely not a
The
joke.
Speaker to resign.
Please, members.
Our country is dealing with very serious issues at all levels, and we have to follow due process. I did follow exactly due process.
Leave the country and speak about the province.
And so, I want to say, Madam Deputy Speaker, that it was handed to the Hawks and they are busy with their investigation.
Now allow the Hawk
But I
to
will
finish the
also say to
investigation.
this House
Order.
is that the whistleblowers will agree or have agreed that we can hand the documents now.
Order, members. Order, members. I think this is in your interest if you're just listening. So if we can just hear this member of this House. Yes.
The whistleblowers have now agreed that I can actually hand the documents to the Secretary. The record will show that the Secretary has asked me on a number of occasions whether the whistleblowers will provide this Parliament with those documents. They have said no. But now there is a change. And so therefore, Madam Deputy Speaker, I would like to thank the Honourable Dugwall for bringing this motion to the House. I would like to thank the Al-Jamar, ACDP and EFF for supporting this motion, and we will also support the motion. We will ask that, in actual fact, it would be wonderful if it could happen today. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much. And just honourable members, before we go into any further deliberations on this, the Premier is quite correct. He has handed the information to the Secretary, and the Secretary must deal with that. It is not for this sitting for us to deliberate on any of those reports. I now understand that there were no objections and that this motion has been agreed to formally in the House, and that this motion now belongs to the House. And the process regarding this motion will continue and will follow through the administration. We now move over to the orders of the day. Mr. Stamela, would you like to please read the first order of the day?
Debate on vote 6, Health Western Cape Adjustment Appropriation Bill, B3 2022.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stamela. And now recognize the Honourable Minister Mbombo.
Thank you. Thank you, Speaker, Deputy Speaker, Premier, the members of the House. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Deputy Speaker, I rise tabling appropriation adjustment of 29,095 billion from the 29,094. That was the main appropriation, which is an additional of 702,000. That makes it 0.002% of the total budget. It's the first time that I even appropriate something of less than not only 1 million, even such less. Therefore, Speaker, I just want to be brief in regard to that. Last week, I did show in terms of how healthy economy and healthy population impacts on health. I also did show how unemployment, how poverty, how the inequalities which are affecting the country do impact on the socio-economic ills that ended up being absorbed by health and become health problems. I did mention that our response is about when we say health is everybody's business, because we have to fight against all of these as part of the whole of the society approach. But social determinants of health is what we see in our health facilities. People go to the facilities because they have been impacted economically, not necessarily in terms of their behavior. That is a research that is there. Almost more than 50% of environment related to social, economic, and lesser physical, and also as individual impacts on health. Now, Speaker, what is the response? That's what now I'm presenting today. The national response is about they reduced our equitable share in response to what I just alluded to. In the next MTEF, we have got a reduction of more than R1 billion. Actually, it takes us even back to pre-pandemic if you look at what's going to happen even from the following year. The response from the national, it's about where they even resolved the wage bill, which they made a promise 3 years ago. And now we are sitting in a situation of where the provinces, including us, we have to do whatever we could do in order to be able to pay the monies related to the salary increase, of which is for fairness and also for the justification is about the healthcare workers specifically, even including other public service. They're the ones who have been at the forefront during the pandemic. So it's unfair that they cannot be able to get the raise. But unfortunately, it means that that money must come from the provinces. There's no new money. Also, Speaker, in terms of the national response, it's related to that the province is also penalized for trying to escalate some of the services to create wellness hub so that people could be able to have what we call health on wheels, where we take vaccine taxis at the taxi rank and we bring services anywhere in the community halls where people reside, like not only the packages of medicines, but also some other services under one roof anywhere. But now, because they want us to give us money per head count at the facilities, that's the response that we're getting in what I've said. Now, what is our response at the provincial level? At the provincial level, the reset in terms of the revisiting the whole of the service redesign to make sure that we are still responsive, where we are saying that we need to provide the right care at the right time, in the right place, also at the right price. Also, we aspire to become a health system that is people-centric, trusted, equitable toward the healthy society. and also to do it at the local level, to enable our local managers to be enabler, and also that we have also reached out because we want to strengthen the partnership with academics, with the private sector, with the traditional practitioners, with everyone, so that we could be able to fulfill that health is everybody's business, is part of that. And Speaker, you may recall that at the beginning of the year, we made a promise, which is we did fulfill in terms of trying to fast track the surgical backlogs, the mental health, and also about that, we even undertook the violence prevention unit as part of the wellness agenda and also the journey. In response to the wage bill, Speaker, the monies that were provided for this year, which includes the monies for the COVID, we made sure we take that 385 million to put it there, because remember the 3% that we have to make sure we pay the wage bill, because there's no new money. So what I'm appropriating, there's no new money that is coming anyway. It means that we have to dollar whatever we must within our own budget. So we have put now that 385 to be put it there so that when now there's a finalization of the increase in terms of the 3% wage bill, we could be able to pay our workers. Also, we took some of the money and added more to other hospitals like the Kailicha and the PAL because they've got high level of pressure. Remember, Speaker, people are unemployed, the socio-economic ills and everything else. That's what contributes to their health problem. And also, Speaker, the infrastructure money, specifically for the catalyst project, like the Tigerberg, we have ring-fenced it and put it there in a ring-fence fund so that we do have a commitment that by whether 2028 or 2030, we could be able, especially for the one that's got to do with the PPP, we could be able to have that money when actually it is required out there. And also, Speaker, in regard to our staff, we've made it sure that the occupational health and everything related to the wellness is there. So, Speaker, having said that, with a 0.002% of the appropriation that I'm tabling, that money covers the rollovers of about 97 million rands, and also the internal shifts going to the various departments, specifically the Department of the Premier and related to the IT infrastructure, because we have to continue with the IT, as we have seen, especially in regard to the dashboard, the unique patient identifier and so forth, and then also the other one to the public works. And also other adjustments is related to the realignment of our provincial budget and also about the shifting of the other funds and the rollovers in relate to that. So, Speaker, having said that, I have tabled, as I indicated, that with a 0.2% of the adjustment, I have to speak 0.00.2. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. I now recognize Honourable Mintfogel.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, on behalf of the ANC, I rise to reject this budget. Today is day 11th of the 16 days of activism for non-violence against women and children. Let us join efforts to add the scourge of GBV and femicide, both in the province and nation at large. The Police Minister, Becky Cele, recently stated that between July and September 2022, over 13,000 women fell victims of assault, 1,277 women were victims of attempted murder, 989 women were murdered, and over 10,000, 10,000 rape cases were opened with SAPS. The Western Cape has increased by 23.6% for sexual offences, including 1,233 rape cases and 432 sexual assault cases. Deputy Speaker, in response to this crisis, the Premier, with much fanfare, announced the establishment of a first for South Africa violence prevention unit to be established in the Western Cape Department of Health. In a written reply to my question about the core function and budget of this program, the Minister answered the unit was intended to have three main roles and that 10 million was allocated to it for this financial year. Through these adjustment budget estimates, 7.4 million of the violent prevent unit was not spent as a result of the job evaluation process, not finalized, and I suppose will be sent back to the revenue fund. Remember, Speaker, the social ills, but the money was not spent. What was the money? Why was the money not spent? And when will this unit start functioning? This level of complacency is completely unacceptable. Deputy Speaker, DA complacency in the Western Cape is also exposed in the failure of the department to spend funds allocated for rebuilding of the GF Worcester Hospital. At this rate, it is clear that the much-needed regional hospital to cater for the Klipfontein region will be completed after 2050. One question on my mind, Deputy Speaker, is for how long will our public healthcare centres, such as the Khayelitsha and Mitchells Plain District Hospital, be able to cope with the added service pressures due to the closure of the GF Worcester Hospital? Deputy Speaker, the Standing Committee embarked on an unannounced visit to the two hospitals a few months ago, and we saw for ourselves the horrible conditions at these hospitals. While I do not want to belabor this point, so I will focus on the central themes that came out of the visit. Firstly, there is a persistent challenge with the referral system, as patients who are supposed to be referred to Lentegeur, Valkenburg, and the Tygerberg Hospital, and end up staying for longer at these hospitals due to shortages of beds in the referral hospitals. Secondly, there are severe bed shortages as both hospitals operate at about their bed capacity. Mitchells Plain has 260 beds, but frequently accommodates 395 patients. Khayelitsha has 350 beds and frequently accommodates close to 450 patients. Both hospitals are level 1, and yet they are forced to take up level 2 functions that are not funded. Thirdly, there are severe staff shortages. Khayelitsha has 300 unfunded positions. In another complaint that was raised sharply by the KDH management was for the two hospitals to be treated equally. KHD only has 650 staff members, while Mitchells Plain District Hospital has 800 staff. Perhaps when the MSC replies, she can shed some light on how complements are determined. Deputy Speaker, the Mitchells Plain District Hospital management said it needed 300 million to address its challenges, while KDH requested 150 million. There was also a request for the department to review the levels of Mitchells Plain Hospital to a regional hospital. In a written reply to my question how the adjustment budget will respond to these challenges, the Minister said KDH will only be allocated an additional 26.6 million, while Mitchells Plain will only receive 2.4 million. Ceres Hospital, despite all its challenges, will only receive 1.5 million. It is evident from the above that this provincial government does not care. Its refusal to address these challenges further exposed the DA complacency, and because of that, we should correctly call it the budget of complacency. The same complacency can be found at the Paarl Hospital. We recently visited the Paarl Hospital, where a patient has to wait 11 hours to be assisted. The hospital is supposed to have 3 porters, but they are never there. And instead, security personnel are doing the work of porters. I pick up a similar challenge during my visit to Vala Clinic in Villiersdorp, where the community is very happy for the new clinic. But they raised their concern. The concern that they raised to me was about the 2 doctors who only come twice a week for 8 hours shift. And there is a huge backlog of files that have to be signed off by doctors before patients can be prescribed medication. Many patients do not have medication as we speak now due to this challenge. One sister at the clinic said, as dinge nie dringend gaan verander nie, gaan ons baie pasiënte verloor. Dit wil sê pasiënte kan sterf because they are without medication. In closing, I wish to commend health stakeholders, including the TAC residents in Mitchells Plain and other communities, for successfully blocking the closure of the metro clinics. The decision was a victory to the people of the Metro. It is, however, disappointing that the 56.8 million infrastructure budget for community health facility has been cut from this budget. This money should have been used to build waiting areas for patients that start queuing in the wee hours of the morning outside these facilities. The ANC therefore correctly rejects this budget for complacency. We reject the reduction in the Tygerberg Hospital capital and maintenance infrastructure funding. The ANC rejected DA complacency, and we are disappointed yet again. No allocation is made towards building the wall of remembrance for all the departed healthcare workers as a result of COVID-19. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I note that Honourable Klego is not in the House. I will then move over to the Democratic Alliance, Honourable Kaiser Verlander.
Goeiemôre, baie dankie, agbare adjunct speaker, Premier, Leader of the Opposition, honourable members, and most of all the residents of the Western Cape. Before I begin with my debate speech, I would like to categorically state that the DA supports the adjusted allocation of 29.095 billion to vote 6, which represents an increase of 702,000 from the 2022-23 main budget. While this is a marginal addition, we know that the department continues to provide quality healthcare to all living in our beautiful province. Honourable Deputy Speaker, this is a budget that upholds the Constitution in section 27(1). It states that everyone has the right to have access to healthcare services, including reproductive healthcare, B, sufficient food and water, and C, social security, including if they are unable to support themselves and their dependents with the appropriate assistance. Deputy Speaker, however, given the current crisis in South Africa, we have seen high and rising levels of unemployment, causing our residents to become poorer by the day, which has been completely by a constrained fiscal climate. We see families is finding it increasingly difficult more and more to sustain themselves due to the rising cost of living. We see graduates standing on the street corners because they are unable to find a job. Honourable Deputy Speaker, these are some of the factors that hugely impacts on the overall well-being and health of our citizens. It is this situation that we should view and debate this budget in. Despite these worsening economic conditions, we see a department that is doing its absolute best to ensure that services continues unhindered. The fact that members on the other side of the House have chosen to turn a blind eye to this speaks volumes. Honourable Deputy Speaker, through you, all that we have heard since last Thursday is cheap politicking against the Western Cape government, when in actual fact, this is the only province in South Africa that continues to outperform expectations and the only province that truly gets things done. That does not mean everything is perfect, but we need to be honest in that respect. At the National Health Department's briefing, where the budgetary cuts were outlined, it was made apparent that there would be an impact on the delivery of infrastructure projects due to the limited funding. Through you, Honourable Deputy Speaker, I fail to understand why Member Winvogel did not take up these budget cuts with the national comrades, instead of insinuating that the provincial department is unable to deliver, which of course is not true. May I be protected, Deputy Speaker?
Honourable members, order members.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Instead of insinuating that the provincial department is unable to deliver, which of course is not true. Healthcare funding concerns are increasing, but what does the ANC care? And while our focus is that of the Western Cape, one cannot deny the truth that the worsening budgetary constraints are a result of the corrupt ANC national government. Honourable Deputy Speaker, the ANC really has no shame. They sit here while their comrades in Pretoria have changed the provincial equitable share formula for health. As a result, it means that there will be even less money going forward. This while failed SOEs get perpetual bailouts. Honourable Deputy Speaker, maybe we would have received more money if the department's name ended in SOC Limited. Despite the ANC's woeful ignorance, the provincial equitable share for vote 6 has been reduced by 63,430,000, and this was due to 7.4 million from in-year saving in the violence prevention unit, with an additional 28.5 million in infrastructure funding and 27.4 from Tygerberg Hospital's capital and infrastructure funding being redirected for the co-payment obligation in respect of the building of the new Tygerberg Central Hospital. In spite of this, our fiscal prudence and responsiveness has meant that we have mitigated the financial pressures being placed on the Western Cape as far as possible. This is because the department has been able to use its rollovers from the previous financial year to smooth the expenditure before next year's main budget. Throughout this year, the department has successfully protected our healthcare facilities against load shedding by procuring extra diesel and collaborating with Eskom and the City of Cape Town. Additionally, extra capacity has been sought through procuring inverters and UPSs at smaller facilities. Honourable Deputy Speaker, let me remind the House that irrespective of how bad the opposition wants to portray this department, this is the only health department in South Africa to have ever achieved a 4th consecutive clean audit outcome. Honourable Deputy Speaker, Honourable Deputy Speaker,
Order.
We are hopeful for all our people. No matter where you reside, political will needs to exist in order to realize the change. This is why the Western Cape Department of Health and Wellness has adopted a reset strategy where health is everybody's business. The Minister on Thursday spoke to the reform occurring in 3 main categories to further this ideal, namely that in the service platform, governance, and public policy. We saw an example of this approach being successful. Recently, the Hospital and Emergency Centre Tracking Innovation Information System, HECTIS, has won the Overall Innovation Award at the Innovative Award Ceremony for 2022. Honourable Deputy Speaker, in the Western Cape, the political will to change people's lives for the better exists, and the Standing Committee has seen it. You haven't been here that often, Honourable Member.
Order.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, at the Khayelitsha District Hospital, despite pressures,
Order,
it delivers
members.
more.
Order, members. You may proceed.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. At the Khayelitsha District Hospital, despite pressures, it delivers more than what is mandated. A hospital that was originally established 10 years ago has more than doubled the number of its specialists. In the coming year, we look forward to the 30-bed extension to be completed for its psychiatric ward, which will significantly relieve the current pressures. We need to be honest and bold when we say that Khayelitsha District Hospital will be able to cope. Honourable Deputy Speaker, as part of our oversight mandate, we also visited the Ceres Hospital, where the population is more than 146,000 and is supplemented by the migration of seasonal workers. The community also has a burden of diseases relating to trauma, violence, HIV and AIDS, TB, chronic diseases, as well as mental health issues stemming from substance abuse due to TIC and alcohol. Yet, as a proactive department, the following interventions were implemented. A second family physician and assistant primary healthcare manager were appointed, with TB nursing staff at clinics and a sessional doctor to support chronic care patients. NGO support is provided to the TB and HIV patients. Community-orientated healthcare was furthered with the Detoy public-private partnership, and we saw the revision of the relevant mobile services routes. Honourable Deputy Speaker, we acknowledge that in the light of the challenges that the department has indeed taken welcome steps to ensure quality health care. It is clear that our hospitals are the frontline responses to all societal ills in our communities. During our standing committee briefing with the department, as well as the Department of Social Development, we wanted to understand the roles that each stakeholder play and the collaboration between different departments in providing mental health services. We have also scheduled to meet with the Department of Justice, with SAPS and other stakeholder departments so that we can further determine how national government functions also impact mental health and psychiatric services within the Western Cape. Honourable Deputy Speaker, 1 in 10 people are in emergency centres due to interpersonal violence. This furthers the fact that there are immense pressures on our facilities, including the impact of crime. Our facilities in the Western Cape absorbs cases of violence, substance abuse, criminality, and other societal ills, whose root causes are beyond the control of the healthcare system. This means we truly need to expand our whole of society and whole of government approach to service delivery. Honourable Deputy Speaker, the ANC has got no political will or no plan whatsoever to fix this country. When the ANC finally leaves the union buildings and ceases to exist as an organization, we will be left with the most unequal country in the world, a far cry from the promises that was made in 1994 before the public purse was purged. Honourable Deputy Speaker, this department is doing the best with what they have under the circumstances. What is certain...
Order, members. Order. Order, members. The Leader of the Opposition and the Premier. 1 minute. Can we just allow Ms. Philander, Member Philander, to finish? Please stop the
Thank you
clock.
very much, Deputy Speaker. This department is doing the best with what they have under the circumstances. What is certainly clear that this is a department and a government that cares about every citizen in every community.
Order.
The ANC has failed us.
Order, members.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. It is clear the ANC has failed us, and they will be punished through the power of the ballot because South Africans simply had enough. As our communities look forward to reconnect with families and friends at the end of the year, we are assured that the department will be ready to ensure that we all enjoy a safe and a healthy festive season. Of course, Deputy Speaker, we also have the responsibility to behave and to abide by traffic and other safety rules. In conclusion, Deputy Speaker, I would like to express much appreciation towards the Minister, Dr. Keith Kloete, departmental officials, and to each and every staffer in every facility in the Western Cape for their selfless service towards the residents in the Western Cape. Your efforts do not go unnoticed, and we are truly blessed with the best. Honourable Deputy Speaker, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I move to support this budget. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I now recognise Mr. Mbombo.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. At the beginning of when I started, I said I don't want to speak more. Not only because it's a small budget, but it's because I'm really sad. I'm sad, Speaker, Deputy Speaker, because when we have so many challenges, when you have so many patients that are coming to us, and then you get a national government that reduces your budget, what does it say? What does it say? Because I just said, through you, Deputy Speaker, I just said,
Order,
Western
members.
Cape equitable share is being reduced for the next 3 years for over R1 billion. That's what I just said. The equitable share is just being reduced by over R1 billion. That part of it is not me, it's coming from the National Treasury. Over R1 billion. For next year, we have almost around about 400 million.
Order, members. Honourable member, the minister sat down because she can't actually hear herself think. Please, can we allow her to finish? Over to you, Minister.
That is one.
Kondlo, please.
And then number two, Speaker, I've just said, because of the increase, not only the population, but also even on the patients, which the members have already indicated. What we do, we are becoming smart, where you take, just like during the COVID, you take other services, you take them outside, creating hospitals with wheels, creating hospitals without walls. Where people are, you bring the services. I just said that we are being penalized for that because the head count must be at the health facility. So meaning all the efforts that we are trying to decongest the facility, it means that it's in vain because we are being penalized for that. So that is number two. And then, Speaker, the other part is about quadruple burden of disease. One, it's a mental health. Evidence shows that with a mental health, the major contributor is substance abuse and alcohol, specifically among the young persons. Two, for the mental health is also due to the COVID, with the whole issues that they, especially with the older persons, especially women who have got anxiety and depression, taking care of the families is other contributors with the mental health. All those two contributors that we have just mentioned, they are outside the health system, but we have to absorb them. So when you have so many of these patients who need, some of them end up having a substance disorder, abuse disorder, meaning now mental illness, when the addiction continues. It means that now they have to stay longer at the hospital and they have to go to a mental hospital. But the mental hospital is full. That's what we are saying. The whole thing is about, it happens outside the health system. The other quadruple burden of disease is maternal health. Maternal health, we're doing far much better for the whole country. It has been like that when it comes to maternal mortality and morbidity. But the issue of teenage pregnancy. So these teenagers do not get pregnant at the hospital. They're getting pregnant outside, in communities, under the nose of the parents, under our nose. That's what's happening. But the person who ends up bearing all this burden is the health system. The other burden of disease is child health. Within the child health, we are doing very much better or best than any other province when it comes to child health outcomes. But the issue of what we see, although it might be in few numbers, the malnutrition and also the stunting among the children. It's not us who are supposed to feed. They're being not fed outside as a result of our unemployment, but we have to absorb those. HIV and AIDS, because of the COVID, we reduce the HIV testing, and also there are those who have to start ARVs for the first time because of the access. But we are beefing up, working with the civil society. The Premier is chairing the Provincial Council of AIDS and TB around that. But sex is happening outside the health system in terms of the unprotected sex. The issue of the interpersonal violence, which you see the whole of the accidents that are happening, trauma that is happening. There's an emergency as medical where Auntie Sarah might come with a stroke or fitting, and then we have got mental health, that is that EC, and then we have got all these accidents. So the whole crime is happening outside the health system. We absorb all of those, but we don't have a budget to respond to that. It means for us, we have to do on our own in terms of how we can be able to respond to that. So when we took over Violence Prevention Unity, which is not actually a health function, but because we are data-driven led, we borrowed a model from Wales, Cardiff model, where actually people will be the first thing when they've been beaten up or whatever, they will go to the hospital, not necessarily going to the police to report the case. Therefore, it made us to be easier immediately, within 24 hours, our data can show that there have been so many of the, whether it's a pedestrian injuries or people who have been beaten up, whether by gunshots and whatever, and we send that message to the relevant, like law enforcement officers. Member Van Vogel spoke about the 10 million. Yes, indeed, we received the 10 million from the Provincial Treasury. What we have done around the post with a unit or anywhere, you cannot just do things like that. We have to do things according to the DPSA, which is we submitted to the DPSA in terms of the ODI, which is it was to and fro up to the time that they approve it, which is now we will have a structure to have those people. But you cannot pay people in advance without having the structure. And also, we don't want to be a VPU of the DOP Street. It has to also to go to do to all the districts and also all the municipality. So that part, and also it's a whole of the, remember, the violence, the safety plan for the Western Cape, it has got two arms. It has got to do the prevention and then also law enforcement. So for us, we're in the prevention in regard to the data, but the violence is happening outside the health system. In regard to the justice, already the professional services, I think I did mention in some time that those people have been appointed, and to remember, we are the client of the Department of Public Works, who are the ones who are the implementing agent. So in as much as that we made one thing to move faster, but also the processes in terms of the infrastructure, the contracting, the tendering system, and all of those, it is happening. But where I'm sitting, the catalyst projects that you are saying that these have to be prioritized, and it has been confirmed, is the Helderberg Hospital, it's a Tygerberg Central Hospital, it's a Tygerberg stroke Bella Regional Hospital, it's the Jooste Hospital, which is the Klipfontein Regional Hospital. Those hospitals, they have to be out between, because we have to stagger in terms of them to be out. The other one, 2028, the other one's 2030. So it's there because we'll be dropping the similar kind of the plan when they are building that. So it's already there. In regard to the beds and all of those that Member Van Vogel has mentioned, that I did actually indicated what I've just responded to, but I want to respond about Mitchell's Plain and Khayelitsha. Mitchell's Plain, the feeder areas, it includes the whole of Philippi. They're part of the Mitchell's Plain substructure, the referral pathway. It also includes the Nyanga and Crossroad. It's part of the Mitchell's Plain. Khayelitsha, it has always been Khayelitsha, but we added the Mfuleni, which was going to the retreat. So you need to understand the referral pathways. The referral pathways, it's an international norm, it's a national norm, because the patient must be able to be exposed to all levels, one patient. It becomes easier because the file and the folders, they go to that level, up to the specialist. So that's how it goes. So you mustn't think only Mitchell's Plain Hospital is only for the Mitchell's Plain. On the medication, again, please, I agree with Member Philander that some of these issues, we have to take it at the other level. We have got a national tender for pharmaceuticals, for the medication. National tender is a national for chronic medication for a 3-year period. That does the tender for the whole of the provinces. Even there was a time when I went to Paarl Hospital, there was one of the medications for mental health wasn't there. Because what normally happens, what they do is they will have added some other units or other medication as part of the tender. And unfortunately, those pharmaceutical companies, they cannot go back now and have to manufacture in bulk system. So when you don't have a chronic medication, you must know first thing is about who's at fault? It's the national, because we all have under national tender. But what we do, the Speaker, Deputy Speaker, but what we do, because you don't want to have the out of stock throughout. Within that sub-district or that municipality, we have to find out in terms of if it's about a medication that can be also available at a primary care level. If in Clinic A, you don't have it, you can get from Clinic B. But in most instances, it's those chronic ones that are prescribed by the doctor for chronic medication because of the national tender. So it means that you have to borrow within the district. And then what you normally do, you ended up taking out of our own pocket a money that was not even budgeted for, and then you have to go over the counter and buy to the manufacturer, probably at a double the price. So that's a whole issue about that. And then in regard to the waiting areas, yes, we did make a commitment of the AFDAC. We're busy with, we have to identify the areas, clinics where they need the AFDAC for the waiting areas, and the psychiatry units as well in these district hospitals, because as I indicated that some patients, mental health for 72 hours, they have to sit also at the emergency center, plus also the trauma and the chronics. Now we're taking those patients who might sit longer than 72 hours, but are not yet qualifying, or there is no place at a specialized psychiatry hospital, so that rather they should be in the psychiatry unit in that small hospital. We're already doing all part of those. And then in addition to that, Bracken Gate, for example, because we don't have much of the COVID, it's a transitional hospital. We still have got those 300 plus beds that are there, but what we do, transitional means that it becomes a step down or it becomes a step up, which is in between, specifically for the Mitchell's Plain and Khayelitsha. Some patients might be, they are done to be at that hospital, but they are not ready yet to be going home. Therefore, in waiting, they could still be there at the Bracken Gate. Whilst before they go home, instead of them, because we need those beds. So we're already doing all parts of those. And then last speaker, I did indicate that the expenses related to the groceries, the expense, because there's a high level increase, even in the security, in the catering. When you see all these prices at the shops, you must know that these are the same things that we're using at the hospital. The which used to be 45 rand, which is the Artapals, 45 or 7 kg. Just count how many patients who have to use those potatoes. That money that we have to buy all the groceries, for us, it has been more. The more there are patients, the more that we're spending. So there is no new money, but all the costs, we have to absorb all of them in regard to that. Thank you very much, Member Van Vogel and Member Philander, for that. And then in closing, Speaker, I just want to thank the team, Dr. Klute and his team. Yes, indeed, I think we are tired of even bragging of having the 4 consecutive audit outcomes. But I think for me, what stands out is the 16,000 plus, I think at the time of looking at the data of those who were infected with COVID. And also the 158 of the health workers who died during this period at the time that I check. We might do as many of the wellness, because you can see now we're doing even wellness at the local level. We open wellness at Grooteskier. There are also wellness champions each and everywhere, and people can go for the counseling, but you'll never be able to replace those. The long COVID that is we are talking about to the patients also happening around us. We're still fractured. We're still not where we were before, but the resilience that has come out among the staff, we want to thank the staff. There are no health services without health workers. If all health workers, psychological, I'm not even talking about the physical, that they have been impacted, it means that our services wouldn't be there. We'll want to have more. Yes, there's a staff shortage, but we don't have money. We want to have more, but there's no money. And the only thing that South Africa could be able to have money is about to review their economic policies and we invest more, because when we invest more, there will be more employment, there will be more taxpayers, and then we could be able to build more hospitals and everything. But we have got nothing. But whatever we could, we managed to be able to do so. So thank you very much, Dr. Klute and your team, and also to the Standing Committee for making us account. So don't take them like they are fighting. They are not fighting. They are helping us. Behind the scenes, Member Von Gaffel say that, can you please, I think in Swellendam Hospital, if you could, whatever, something like that. They said, can you please go for yourself and have a conversation, something like that. Outside these walls, we are all at one as MPPs of the Western Cape government in different portfolios, but we're all doing it for the people of the Western Cape. Thank you very much, Standing Committee, and also my colleagues, and then lastly, for my office. I just hope that, because at least now we don't have much COVID, they could be able to relax. We cannot be working 24 hours throughout. We are also drained, but at least because we know that it's a good cause, you are doing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. That brings us to the end of vote 6. I'll ask Mr. Stamela to read the second order of the day.
Debate on vote 3, Provincial Treasury, Western Cape Adjustment Appropriation Bill, B3 2022.
Thank you very much. I now recognise the Honourable Minister Wenger.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. When I tabled the medium-term budget policy statement and adjustment budget with the House nearly 2 weeks ago, I talked about tough choices and difficult trade-offs. With provincial budgets under pressure and demand for our services greater than ever, the Western Cape will need to do more with less, prioritising, innovating and ensuring value for money. Doing so requires courage, leadership and clear principles to guide us so that we deliver on the social contract that we have with our citizens, to deliver jobs, to deliver safety and to deliver well-being. This, Deputy Speaker, is why this vote is so important. Our Provincial Treasury, as part of South Africa's team finance, is essential in ensuring that we realise good governance and sound financial management, always treating the public's money with the greatest of care. I'd like to upfront thank the officials from the Provincial Treasury for their unwavering commitment to realising this objective, as well as for their hard work in running the budget process so professionally. They give effect clearly to what Thomas Paine said, and I quote, "Public money ought to be touched with the most scrupulous conscientiousness of honour." Honourable Deputy Speaker, there are many important projects underway that enable the important choices that we need to make in the Western Cape, while helping to build on the strong foundations that we and our municipalities need to govern for growth and to stay on course. One such initiative is the introduction of the expenditure reviews by the Provincial Treasury, enabling the department to work with others to review both expenditure and programme performance and constructively identify areas for improvement in the implementation of strategic priorities. This is an internationally recognised tool for improving cost effectiveness. In the 21-22 financial year, 21 officials completed the Government Technical Advisory Centre GTAC spending review training, and 5 expenditure reviews were produced by this government. In September of this year, a second round of GTAC training commenced, aimed at institutionalising the expenditure review process, with 5 new expenditure reviews underway. We are now incorporating the reviews into the budget process, and we're working with departments to land their recommendations. This project has received 924,000 rand for the 22-23 financial year. With a budget of 1.36 million rand in the 22-23 financial year, another innovative intervention is our public entity review, which will help us to further strengthen our monitoring of public entities, ensuring that we exercise effective oversight over them. We are also developing a financial monitoring and evaluation template to supplement existing oversight processes, as well as identifying possible legislative amendments to strengthen board governance and ensure alignment to the Public Finance Management Act. In line with the recently released Zondo Commission recommendations, we need to constantly find ways to strengthen oversight so that we stay ahead of the curve to governance risks and remain the best-run government in South Africa. And this review will be critical for us doing so. Honourable Deputy Speaker, ensuring that we remain the best-run government in South Africa will require that we embrace innovation and technology in our supply chain management. To achieve this, the Provincial Treasury's Supply Chain Reform Project is fast-tracking governance efficiencies in procurement processes and procedures, as well as embracing technology to enable and assist the Provincial Treasury in executing its core mandate. We expect this important component of the reform project, which has a 2 million rand budget, to be completed by the end of this financial year. As we continue to embrace technology, we've also rolled out the e-procurement solution, facilitating the procurement of goods and services by the Western Cape Government. For our departments, this makes it easier to comply with legislation, improve productivity, and reduce paperwork. It also strengthens transparency and curbs opportunities for irregularities, fraud, and collusion between suppliers and officials, providing a clear audit trail. For our suppliers, this provides procurement opportunities to more businesses, stimulating competition. It also gives effect to our core growth for jobs priority by making it easier to do business with the Western Cape Government. by making it easier to do business with provincial government through this project. Overall, 6.36 million rand has been made available in the 22-23 financial year, including for solution architecture, hosting, and tenancy. Deputy Speaker, the Western Cape Government fully appreciates the very real challenges our municipal leaders and officials face as they try to govern for growth in a difficult, resource-constrained environment. We also know that they are at the coalface of service delivery, and without them, we cannot achieve our North Star priorities of growth for jobs, safety, and well-being. That is why we are constantly looking for ways to support them to succeed, and this year has been no different, with the introduction of the Asset Management System Governance and Capability Project with a budget of 2.29 million rand. This project will help municipalities to benchmark the maturity of their asset management systems and to quantify the strategic processes that inform their asset management plans. The aim is to establish and complete a fully fledged asset register at each municipality to enable them to have a full view of the state of their assets. This will allow municipalities to direct resources where they are most needed and to ensure that they deal with the direct challenge of aging infrastructure to maintain and improve basic services to our citizens. Another way in which we are supporting our local governments is by ensuring that vulnerable municipalities are given the right support to stabilize and to move forward. Good governance is the foundation for growth, and every citizen, no matter where they live in the province, deserve to live in a well-run municipality. In this respect, we will continue to work closely with Beaufort West Municipality to ensure the effective implementation of their mandatory financial recovery plan. We will also continue to closely monitor and support other municipalities facing financial challenges and will not hesitate to take all steps that are necessary to address financial distress. Deputy Speaker, through this adjustment budget, we've also allocated 17 million rand from the Western Cape Municipal Capability Building Grant to be transferred to municipalities. Of this total, 10.18 million is for a range of projects that will help municipalities to strengthen good financial governance, including setting more cost-reflective tariffs, improving revenue collection, and strengthening their financial systems. A further 6.9 million rand will fund bursaries that municipalities can allocate to local learners so that they can develop a pipeline of future talent from their own areas that one day will work in their municipality. Through these transfers, the Provincial Treasury is investing in further strengthening the financial management capability of our municipalities so that they remain financially sustainable and can sustain the platform for growth and job creation in local economies across the province. Deputy Speaker, in my medium-term budget policy statement speech before this Parliament, I shared how through modelling, the Provincial Treasury was able to project our provincial equitable share allocation in 2030, noting a reduction after factoring in inflation. This innovative use of data is the first of more to come as we roll out our exciting Fiscal Futures project. With a budget of 1.6 million rand in this financial year, the project will enable us to be more vigilant in monitoring and extrapolating our data over the longer term, thereby allowing us to anticipate. I certainly look forward to sharing more of its insights with you in the future. To adjust our sails and table a budget that cares and prepares in the Western Cape, we have released 2.79 million rand of this vote to the Provincial Revenue Fund, therefore bringing the total adjusted budget of the Provincial Treasury to 318.32 million rand for the 22-23 financial year. Of the 2.79 million, 1.7 million is in respect of the infrastructure earmarked allocation. The organisational design investigation regarding the establishment of a Chief Directorate for Infrastructure in the Provincial Treasury is envisaged to be completed in the 23-24 financial year. 781,000 rand is in respect of the municipal intervention earmarked allocation, 381,000 of which will be reallocated in the 23-24 financial year. And 274,000 is in respect of the financial management capability grant, as the total amounts requested by municipalities for support was less than the allocation. This means our administration program now receives 62.13 million rand. Our sustainable resource management program now receives 127.9 million rand. Our asset management program now receives 76.9 million rand, and our financial governance program now receives 51.7 million rand. In conclusion, Honourable Deputy Speaker, after hearing just some of the Treasury's pioneering projects, I think we can all agree that they are doing an outstanding job in steering this province's public finances. I'm so proud of the way that they embrace innovation, always strive for excellence, and how responsibly they manage the public purse. We must not for a second underestimate how important this is for the course that we have set out to achieve in the Western Cape. Indeed, sound financial management, well-run, corruption-free provincial departments and local governments, value-for-money projects, and a robust, transparent, and professional budget process is the foundation that we need to deliver the better future that our citizens deserve. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I now recognise the Honourable Nkondlo.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, perhaps as the Minister speaks about doing more with less, Minister must actually listen to the voice of the likes of the MEC of Health, who is crying about the budget cuts into social spending, health in particular, and I'm sure in other areas. As I think we must concede to the challenges of austerity policy, which the DA actually supports and is implementing here in this province. And as such austerity policies should not be accepted with a blanket check, because already in 2014, I think writings have been done by academics about some of the challenges of austerity during recession as a policy posture that does not necessarily, has not proven with data that it actually helps to revive economies and in particular developing economies of our nature. So I'm raising this, that maybe MEC Mbombo, you must join the left in the ANC, who also have been calling that the challenge of blanket austerity remains a challenge for a developing economy like ours. And actually hoping that, Minister, in your department, that the fiscal futures that were established by Premier would actually help us to really indicate whether after this whole process, when we've done all of these budget cuts from COE and everything else, we are seeing any improvements, or the social problems actually are going to derive or realize even worse economic challenges for our communities. I stand here today on behalf of the ANC to object to this budget. Firstly, we must decry what is currently happening in this House due to DA escapades as a serious threat to governance and sound financial management in this province. Let me share a few of these. We're here with no Speaker of this Parliament as the DA chose to circumvent justice by trialling the Speaker using their draconian and unjust process, especially towards its black members, on allegations claimed to emanate from him as its public representative in the House. Actually, the Premier was here trying at pains to explain himself as a member of this House, but a Premier in the executive. A travesty of justice, as this Parliament is rendered toothless and unstable, where clear system and process to trial any misconducts are available. Then we've got a conduct committee, which obviously, when that information of the whistleblower arrived at the Premier, he had the responsibility to hand over to the systems of this Parliament, unless he already says vote of no confidence to this Parliament. This kind of encroachment has direct impact on the financial governance, as the same DA was on record about this, and you really mention it now, MEC, about the situation in Beaufort West Municipality, to a point that a budget could not be discussed and approved within the stipulated times. Including your HOD was lamenting this in the committee, that politics have got a serious way to collapse public administration. And here we see this adjustment budget here being concluded under a stewardship of House chairs, a Deputy Speaker office marred by controversy and allegations of misconduct, a secretary whom the House must be pushed to give executive powers, as the party saw it proper to paralyze this House only for party politics. Another of these DA theatrics that this House pays and is subjected to is we have two MECs, one for human settlement and another for transport and public works. And yet, by decree of the handler, this House was plunged into an oversight quagmire where there's only one MEC in this budget adjustment accounting for 2 votes, whilst the other was here presenting a budget during the main appropriation, and today he must sit and watch. We cautioned the Premier about these abrupt announcements and their implications to order of the administration, let alone this governance confusion he created. His announcement came after his DA booted out another black person in the former MEC Madikizela, and now the new sheriff tells us in the committee there has been a culture of non-accountability in that department, painting a bleak picture of his predecessor. Now, a young MEC is shoved off on the side as long as he earns the perks, as we are told the executive powers are given to his party leader, and he is just to sit there and smile. Lastly, an instrument to give teeth and enable this House to make meaningful interventions to budget proposals by the executive in the form of the procedure on money bills for this House has been delayed since ANC called for this in the last administration. And yet the learned advocate in the acting chief whip come chairperson of the budget committee treats us in a theater of spectacle of workshop after workshop as delaying tactic to get this done. So again, here, the WCPP
Order, members.
Is toothless, and arrogance of numbers is used by the DA mob as logic to engage and bully those with less numbers into the budget choices of the executive. Where all this is a show, a charade for the DA-leds to show who jumps and make the fanciest noises, jokes, ridicule, and obfuscation of facts to satisfy the master who hold the keys to their upward mobility in the party. The more noise one makes, the higher the chances of the best performers to be called in the main office for getting more perks, elevated to what is seen as powerful position, even a chance of joining the handler's main dinner table. How do you realize good governance and prudent financial management in such a political climate? What happened to separation of powers as a tenet of liberal democracy? Deputy Speaker, given this adjustment budget was presented simultaneously with the Pero and Mero, with the MEC herself in a speech that stated that Mero empowers us with the information that we and our municipalities need to govern for growth in the Western Cape. Yet, the MEC must explain how a surrender of the 1.735 funds of the provincial to the Provincial Reserve Fund that was meant for infrastructure development improvement program. This happens whilst this government argues for fixed investment as a way to deal with what in the Pero says, stopping job crisis not to be a social crisis. Provincial Treasury has surrendered COE funds as delays to fill vacancies has become the order of the day. Bursary funds also unspent in an environment of youth unemployment, a trend to shift this money to EPWP projects. Further, we see in this budget that funds are shifted to make provision for the impact of 2022 3% wage increase. And this happens whilst National Treasury was here a few days ago to allocate money for the wage increment. And even on the 21st November, in the Select Committee on Appropriations, they considered that if there is any changes and there is a shortfall, such provinces will then be allocated. Now, what is this money put aside for provision of wage increment? We do not understand. Similar, the DA made some theatrics during the COVID and put money aside to buy vaccines whilst there was allocation provided. As this provincial government at this point continues to place austerity as linear strategy on COE, we must remember what the same provincial treasury argued during the Q1 performance. They said, I quote, service delivery has increased, need for staff and leading to pockets of burnout. This is the reality of many of the public servants that are placed into modern day slavery, and their dedication is undermined by this government. The ANC does not support this budget. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I now recognize Honourable Makamba Botia.
Thank you, Speaker. The Economic Freedom Fighter about all these adjusted estimates of the provincial revenue in all the votes across the board. The Department of Treasury has failed in its mandate and thereby failing the people of Western Cape. Their endeavor to build capacity in the public sector has failed dismally. This is the department with a minister who spends 99% of her time blaming national government for all the failures in this province and take credit for all smaller success province achieves, with a mandate, Deputy Speaker, to build integrated sustainable manner. The bulk of failures by all the Western Cape departments should also be blamed on the province, Deputy Speaker, where municipalities are failing to deliver services to the people, and the only thing celebrated is clean audits. Clean audits, Deputy Speaker, do not constitute service delivery or improve the lives of poor people. We cannot have a government that spends all its time making sure that it acquires clean audits in the books, but then at the same time, people do not have services. Deputy Speaker, this is the government that award big contracts to the companies associated and affiliated with those running the white monopoly capital. Its handlers have given in it a task, which is to keep granting them these big government contracts, making sure that the books remain clean. Deputy Speaker, the EFF will not vote for any budget that fails to promote cohesion and take the poor people of Western Cape seriously. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Just note that you were not always audible, so I'm not sure that the Hansard would be able to capture your speech correctly. Perhaps you could send that in just to assist them. Thank you very much. I now recognise the Honourable Murray.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The Provincial Treasury has an extraordinarily difficult task considering our country's history. It aims to promote cohesion and citizen centricity, and it aims to do so by building capacity in the public sector by being adaptive, innovative, and supportive. It does so through integrated management and partnerships that enable delivery of quality services done sustainably. As a born free, I have no comprehension of what many of my colleagues in this House have had to endure during the cruel apartheid regime. I've only heard the horror stories, and I've seen the aftermath of deep inequality. Like many other born frees, seeing these injustices is extremely painful, and we are left with the great burden of trying to fix what was broken by generations before us. But Deputy Speaker, I'm angry. My generation was told that we would live in a better society, but in my 28 years, I have only seen crime, corruption, and inequality get worse. Our so-called liberators, the ANC, have only promoted division and focused on filling their coffers rather than helping those most vulnerable.
Please take your seat. Honourable Said, what's the point of order?
It's a request. Is the Honourable Murray able to take a question on the history of South Africa?
Honourable Murray, would you like to take a question? Oh, no, Honourable Members. Sorry.
Thank you. The question was implied. I'm not willing to take a question.
I cannot hear Honourable Murray.
The question was implied. I'm not willing to take a question. I want to finish my speech. Thank you.
You may proceed.
You don't know the history.
I'll continue. Our so-called liberators, the ANC, have only promoted division and focused on filling their coffers since coming into government, rather than helping those most vulnerable. That is why I want to commend the DA-led Western Cape government, and particularly this department, on what they are doing to ensure that no person is left behind.
So the ANC have deliberated this member from what?
No, Honourable Moran. No, you can't do that. Section 1 minute, Honourable Said. Honourable Moran, no interjections in terms of Rule 40. Please allow Honourable Kayla Murray to continue. Honourable Said.
Fighting from the inside on what we are doing to ensure that no person is left behind through the vision of cohesion and citizen centricity. They are doing this with an adjusted budget of nearly 319 million rand for the 2022-23 financial year. The budget, however, is constrained by the provincial equitable share, or lack thereof, a key source of the budget for this department. It has been reduced by 2.79 million rand thanks to the ANC-led national government, which is a decrease of 0.88%. And I think it's a laughable point by the ANC to talk about austerity measures being ineffective, particularly as they have a skewed PES allocation towards our province. But Speaker, this adjustment had to be made by the provincial government in the face of spending pressures and the failure of the national government to add additional PES funding to service delivery. The ANC, unsurprisingly, are once again making it more difficult to promote cohesion and a citizen-centric approach to governance. Despite this, the department will continue to strengthen its financial record-keeping and reporting while contributing to clean audit outcomes. Testament to this is that 62.1 million rand, an increase of 4.85%, has been allocated to the administrative program. Its financial management sub-program has further received an increase of 4.44 million, or 16.42%, bringing its adjustment budget to a total of 35.5 million, helping to achieve its mandate. The DA-led Western Cape government, guided by its recovery plan, has further redirected funding from the Sustainable Resource Management Program to the tune of 2.8 million to support infrastructure project implementation and movable asset plans, and provides reports to the Cabinet on the implementation of infrastructure projects. This will ensure that the Western Cape continues to create an enabling environment for job creation and promoting the values of freedom, fairness, opportunity, and diversity for all. This department is further bolstering service delivery and promoting cohesion through its asset management program, which has been allocated 76.9 million in the adjusted budget, an increase of 0.7% from the main budget. Its local government supply chain sub-program will also receive an increase of 1.58 million rand, helping to streamline and improve services rendered to municipalities. A key function of this department is ensuring that those services rendered by municipalities are delivered in line with auditing practices, sufficient risk management, and legal frameworks. This is done while maintaining the department's status as an accredited member of the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants. This is South Africa's preeminent accounting body and chartered accounting training office. The sub-program Corporate Governance will receive a welcome 7.96 million, or 56.6% increase, ultimately improving municipal service delivery. The Chartered Accountant Academy has been permanently established within the Provincial Treasury, and graduates have been absorbed in the public and private sectors. Demand remains robust, and the program is constantly or continuously replenished with new trainees. Discussions are further underway, which is incredibly welcomed, with municipalities to latch onto the successes of the program and add to the talent pool of professionals in the public sector. The increase will come from the Financial Governance Program, which will receive nearly 51.8%, or a welcomed 24.04% increase. I also want to welcome Minister Wenger's announcement that this department is continuing in its commitment to use tech in its SCM processes to ensure that government is not left behind and keeps up with the demands of an increasingly digitized economy and digitized government. What underpins this department's ability to drive cohesion and its citizen-centric approach is its unrelenting commitment to clean audits. Clean audits are not miraculously achieved, as other parties might allude to. Rather, systems and frameworks are put in place and rigorously adhered to by the department, which has a tangible effect on fiscal responsibility throughout the provincial government. This directly contributes to less money being wasted and more being available to deliver key services to our residents. This is evidenced by the provincial government receiving unqualified audits for all its departments in the last year. It is clear that this adjustment budget takes its aim of promoting cohesion and citizen centricity very seriously. That is why, as a born-free, living in the very best-run province in this country, that I am pleased to support this bill.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I now recognise the Honourable Minister Wenger.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. I must say I definitely agree with Honourable Gondlo. It's not right that the budget has been cut In fact, the national government cut the budget by 2 billion rand. That is not right. And one can see how this affects key service delivery in departments such as health and education. And we don't have a blanket austerity approach. We, in fact, have a differentiated approach, and departments manage their own cost of employment. And in fact, this province has buffered frontline services precisely to protect them from the cuts that we're getting from the national government. I wonder if the honourable member supports the SOE bailout, which took money away from provinces to burn at failing SOEs that are actively hindering our economy. For the Honourable Makamba Botha to say that the department has failed on its mandate,
Order.
I think I should use this opportunity to quote the Auditor General, who said in her most recent report that the consistent positive pattern of prior years continued, reflecting an overall robust control environment with a solid and consistent pattern of good financial governance. This positive reflection highlighted the tone set by the accounting officers and authorities, instilling a culture of doing the right thing, being accountable, and improving controls as key elements in achieving and sustaining clean audit outcomes. Now, I don't know if any other province could boast such a wonderful note from the Auditor General, but certainly it's something that we take very seriously and are very proud of and work very hard towards. And in addition, we recognize that clean audits are a milestone in our pathway to a destination. Meanwhile, disclaimers and adverse opinions are not. And on that note, I'd like to thank the Standing Committee under the leadership of Honourable Murray for the very important role that they play in conducting robust oversight over the two departments. And we really appreciate the inputs, the critiques, and they help us to do better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. That brings us to the end of the vote 3. I will ask, Honourable Dugmo, do you have a point of order? 1 minute. That brings us to the end of the vote 3. I recognise the Honourable Dugmo.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I just seek your advice in terms of a motion, in terms of 151, 2 and 3. As you know that motions need to be delivered to the Secretary before 12. I have established that the Secretary doesn't appear to be physically around, so I have actually sent him a copy of this motion. So I want to be within the rules. Would it be possible that I can hand the motion to the table, but I have sent the Secretary a copy of this motion?
You may, within your rights, deliver any motion before 12 o'clock in terms of 151, 2 and 3. I'm not going to make a big thing of it. You can put it to Mr. Stamela. Just to let you know for the record that the Secretary is the chair of SOCAT, and so today he is officially on SOCAT duty. So you may give it to Mr. Stamela.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. So did he appoint Mr. Stamela as the acting?
Mr. Stamela is the director and senior management. He assists us. I'm sure he can receive it if you've put it in writing. I'm going to not interfere with the process. You may proceed. Thank you very much. I will now ask Mr. Stamela, if you may, just to move and to read the third order of the day. Honourable members, I would like to get through that one before lunch. Thank you. Over to you.
Debate on vote 12, Economic Opportunities and Tourism, Western Cape Adjustment Appropriation Bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stamela. I now recognise the Honourable Minister Wenger.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. There can be no greater priority than rapidly growing the economy so that we enable opportunity and job creation for our citizens. After years of state capture, anti-private sector, anti-growth policies, and devastating load shedding, the state has hindered and not helped the private sector to create jobs in this country. While the Western Cape has taken a very different road, The impact of the approach nationally, coupled with the global COVID-19 pandemic, has meant that we have much more to do to deliver the opportunity our citizens need to succeed. This is why our framework of hope, which I tabled before this Parliament, has at its heart the requirement that we realise private sector-led breakout economic growth in the Western Cape by landing a new economic growth strategy in the province. Following our COVID-19 pandemic economic response through our Jobs Now and recovery plans, it's important that we move forward on our pathway from recovery to growth. This is precisely why this vote is so critical for our government and its objectives. Indeed, achieving an ambitious target will require the coordination of a data-led all-of-government approach, as well as partnership with the private sector. The Department of Economic Development and Tourism will be key to achieving this. In my medium-term budget policy statement, I set out how we will need to adjust our sails as we finalise and adopt this new strategy, which we aim to do before the end of this financial year. And I certainly look forward to sharing more with you in our main budget for 23-24 as we begin to align to this new approach, which seeks to leverage horizontal enablers to unlock higher levels of growth in our province. To land the strategy by then, we have in this adjustment shifted R1 million to enable the purchase of additional data subscriptions so that we have the necessary economic intelligence to finalise the work. A key requirement of the strategy is that we leverage economic data to inform our decision-making, and so this intelligence is crucial. We are also shifting R400,000 to this project to enable an intensified stakeholder consultation process, so we ensure that it is an informed piece of work which all of society can unite behind. Deputy Speaker, a key horizontal enabler for economic growth is ensuring that our citizens have the right skills to access the job market. To support the creation of this talent pool, we are investing in our citizens to ensure that they have the right qualifications, the right skills, and the right experiences for the jobs available now and in the future, so that we can take full advantage of the immense potential of our economy. This is why the Department of Economic Development and Tourism works hard with various partners and stakeholders across all levels of government, as well as international partners, to create more opportunities to upskill young people. To enable this work further, nearly R1 million, 990,000 rand, has been shifted in the adjustment budget to help deliver various digital skills and youth entrepreneurship programs, as well as for upgrade and maintenance of IT infrastructure at the ICANN Centre in Elsie's River. This ICANN Centre is a pioneering community-based centre developed in partnership with the City of Cape Town and which provides digital skills programs to residents. To date, it has had more than 94,000 visitors, with 13,627 training opportunities being provided. We, however, know that we must do more with less in the difficult fiscal environment we face. I therefore also want to congratulate the DDAT team for working hard to leverage external funding to boost skills in the province so that we can multiply this effect. I think it's worth noting that the department leveraged more than R150 million last year alone to support our skills program. Another critical way to unlock economic growth in the Western Cape is through enabling small and micro enterprises to grow, succeed, and employ more people. To do this, the Western Cape Government runs the SMME Booster Fund, which distributes funding to selected organisations to deliver training programs on business development support and access to markets. To enable the funding of multi-year projects by beneficiaries of this fund, R4.6 million has been reallocated to the 23-24 financial year. Deputy Speaker, it brings me great joy and lots of relief to see full flights of tourists landing in the Western Cape again. Every tourist contributes to job creation. And so the fact that between January and October of 2022, Cape Town International Airport recorded 4.9 million two-way domestic passengers and 1.4 million two-way international passengers. This really is very good news. One of our destination's core offerings for both domestic and international visitors is the fact that we are a global capital for events. From the International Jazz Festival to major medical conferences at our convention centres, We are a place where people come together to gather, to meet, to learn, and to have fun. Next year, I'm pleased to note, our visitors will have another reason to come to Cape Town in the Western Cape, with the city of Cape Town being announced as the host city for the E-Grand Prix World Championship for the next 5 years. This electric motorsport event is held across 12 destinations on 5 continents and is expected to result in an economic impact worth hundreds of millions of rands, including major global exposure for our country. It also brings with it important conferences such as the Green Economy Summit and the E-Fest, which will help catalyze e-mobility and the take-up of green energy solutions in South Africa. To contribute to enabling this important event over the MTEF, 3 million rand has been allocated from our budget to the lead department, the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sports. Deputy Speaker, I nearly fell off my chair when I received in my inbox a request to comment on the pre-draft South African Shipping Company Bill, which aims to establish a state-owned shipping company in South Africa. Yes, you heard correctly. The country just spent 30 billion rand bailing out struggling SOEs. Instead of a water-based zombie SOE, we rather need world-class working ports with excellent turnaround times for private shipping lines. If we get the port right, these shipping lines will call again, and we, according to our own research, will significantly boost growth and job creation. And the best way to do this is through ensuring private sector participation at our ports, and most certainly the Port of Cape Town, which has surprisingly been excluded by Operation Vulindlela. This is something we will continue to push to have changed, because the Port of Cape Town is an excellent candidate for this initiative. Honourable Deputy Speaker, to continue our important work in unblocking the inefficiencies at the Port of Cape Town and to better align this work to our focus on exports and logistics, 1.37 million rand is shifted from Programme 2 to Programme 3, and additional human resource capacity will be added to the team to strengthen its work further. Deputy Speaker, together this means the Department of Economic Development and Tourism budget for the 22-23 financial year is adjusted to 510 million rand, which is tabled before you for debate today. I'd like to use the opportunity to thank the new Head of Department, Mr. Velile Dube, for his leadership and hard work, and to the officials within DDAT for their commitment to realizing the better future we hope to achieve. No matter how big the challenge, this team wakes up every day to help get our economy growing, and I'm so grateful for their passion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I now recognise Honourable Nkondlo.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, the ANC does not support this budget. The MEC of Finance, Economic Opportunities and Tourism introduced a growth for jobs strategy, which is still transitioning between existing strategies at the moment. We must actually call and caution this department's role that is supposed to ensure economic development and opportunities for all in this particular province. That actually the efforts of Pero and Mero remains an opportunity for this department to actually play that leading role and deal with a racialized a past and a fiscal policy that actually makes choices to keep the structural inequality in this particular province. The strategy for jobs that the MEC spoke about in the tail end of this particular administration is actually laughable, because we're sitting here almost with a year to end and close books for this particular administration, and yet we are told of a strategy for jobs that is going to be concluded by the end of this financial year. And the question is, where is the jobs that the Premier spoke about? Early in his first State of the Province address, he promised the citizens of this province that in each household he shall ensure that there is a job. Where are we in that? As the MEC speaks about putting together this particular jobs strategy. Again, we've been seeing in reports, and Quarter 1 is once again another evidence, MEC, that on the jobs front, the Department of Public Works, through the EPWP, registered more than 100,000 EPWP job opportunities. Is that the jobs that this province is able to deliver to the citizens of this country? And as part of that, we are also told that 60 jobs out of 100 million investment by Westgro. Such jobs are very expensive, I think, to secure in this provincial government. Only 60 out of an investment of 100 million. And others are marketing events and other things. The question is, where are those particular jobs that we're talking about at this point? We all know that when we talk about these new strategies that are always called upon, that we'd like to caution once again about, political posturing, because we're going to another election in 2024. That new promises, new things gets to be promised to the citizens so that they are lured into being voting voters. We want results. And at this point, MEC, when there is once again a surrender of compensation of employees funding, we ask the question, what is informed or what is behind this delays of filling up of vacancies? This has been happening year in and year out. And at this point, what we want to see is vacancies being filled, from this particular provincial government and department, particularly that has a responsibility to activate economic development. We take note also of the 10.037 million for the SMME Booster Fund that was shifted from the public corporations and public enterprises to non-profit institutions in sub-program 2.1 on enterprise development. And we shall always, as the ANC, as we have done, to support monies towards the SMME Booster Fund, because we have all agreed that an economy of this nature of ours must allow SMMEs to actually pioneer new grounds of ensuring economic activities. And therefore, that becomes very important. And amongst others is to look at the point of infrastructure. And I'm sure MEC Simas have been raising the issue of extortion and criminality in the construction space. And for me, it is very challenging that this particular department is silent, on what are the fights in as far as safety is concerned around business against crime, because also crime must be viewed as an economic act and economic sabotage, because those emerging contractors that are actually deprived an opportunity, to participate in the construction industry and help us to reboot that industry, that has got a serious potential of employment. And at this point, we are not seeing much robust intervention in those communities where such infrastructure is required. And this is a concern, MEC, that for me, I do not see the role of the Economic Development Department actually in that space. Amongst others is the township economy, which we shall not deter to actually raise with you, the informal economy, because once again, as you claim, that the Pero and Mero is information at your disposal, and you shall always utilize it in good faith to decide on the proper policy choices to make. That here is the Pero providing in another financial year, and I think MEC Mainir, as your colleague and your predecessor, can actually also tell you that this happened where jobs were registered, positive growth in this informal sector. And once again, it has done that. And amongst others, what it does, it has shown employment of the sector or the designated groups that are not found in the main economy, particularly in terms of job creation, because of structural problems in the labor market, where Black people, Africans in particular, and women are not necessarily absorbed, and we are told because of education attainment, low education attainment levels. But the informal sector has demonstrated, and the PERO is actually speaking about that it has demonstrated employment opportunities for those sectors of economy. So what is it that should be done for you, MEC, and your HOD and the team in economic development to start taking informal economy serious and elevating it into the space it desires, to sit next to the formal economy and be attended to, in the same vigor that you are doing as you now speak about the ports, and you seem to be very interested in the Port of Cape Town, where you had poached at the HOD, and because there are other ports here in the province. There is a Saldanha port, there is also a Mossel Bay, and there are also small harbors that I think could all be integrated, so that if we talk about transportation, of goods and services and processing, towards a leverage economy, such is integrated. This one of this particular port of Cape Town, I must say, because it seems that the only interest that you have is only on the port of Cape Town. And we actually commend the improvements that have been seen as we approach the season now of the fruit growers in that particular space, that indeed there has been, out of the engagements that have been held, there has been improvements in terms of capacity to ensure that the delays in the ports are things of the past. As we conclude,
please finish your sentence off. The time's up.
The ANC, as we continue to say, we shall focus, and we want this particular department to focus on the structural inequality in this particular province. And the ANC will never stop making this particular call, and the ANC does not support and therefore rejects this budget. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Nkondlo. I now recognize the Honourable Makamba Botia.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I take note of what you have alluded earlier on, that I'm having problems with network, so I've sent my speech to the guy for handset purposes. Deputy Speaker, an adjusted budget decrease of more than 4.7 million by government that fails to create an enabling environment for meaningful job opportunities is disappointing. Whilst the hourly national minimum wage rate of 23.19 Rand is very low, the Department of Economic Opportunities also has a duty to encourage prospective employers with interest in the provincial economy. This whole issue, Deputy Speaker, of minimum wage rate is low, has been taken to mean that employers must also stick to even in situations where they can offer more. Deputy Speaker, it is shocking, for example, that the provincial government would announce that the agricultural sector of this province is booming, and whilst farmers make billions in profits from exports, the hourly minimum wage rate of farm workers does not increase, even though they are also played a big role in making sure that there is an increase in production and profits. Deputy Speaker, the same thing is also true in other sectors of economy. One cannot celebrate more revenue and economic boom, but the lives of our poor people do not change. In essence, Deputy Speaker, what is being celebrated is that inequality is widening. The owners of means of production continue to fill their pockets with billions of rands, and a worker remains alienated with their situations not getting better salaries. On that note, Deputy Speaker, the EFF does not support this vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Will you also send that speech? I think you had a few moments also with your connectivity. Thank you. I now recognise Honourable Brinkes.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Honourable Deputy Speaker, informal trading and street trading are not being recognised for their contribution to the province's economic growth. In Athlon's Gatesville, for example, informal traders who are mostly women that make efforts to sell their homemade products to uplift their families out of poverty continue to be deprived of their right to trade in open, available, competitive spaces. The current system is scuttling their trading and livelihoods instead of creating healthy environments for small informal traders. It is harming and restricting them from addressing their basic needs. We question the province and city of Cape Town's joint initiative of the tourism safety units, which will be unequally deployed to safeguard only certain tourist destinations. Again, tourist destinations on the Cape Flats are not affected. The Al-Jama does not support this unequal budget. I thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Very much, Honourable Member. I now recognise the Honourable Murray.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. In considering whether or not to support this budget, I have measured its success against the objectives set out in the Western Cape Government's Provincial Recovery Plan. The plan is guided by its 3 North Stars of well-being, safety, and jobs. And it is this department's specific responsibility to look out for the priority of jobs. The success of this plan is measured through evidence and data. And this adjustment appropriation bill offers us, as a House, please listen, as a House, the opportunity to use this data and evidence before us to determine whether the department is on track. In doing so, it will guide us all in terms of whether this vote should indeed be supported or not. But Speaker, before I outline why it is that this department is indeed on track, it is important to interrogate why the provincial government should be guided by a recovery plan at all. The COVID-19 pandemic had a destabilizing impact on both lives and livelihoods of residents. It exacerbated socioeconomic inequalities in our communities, and the road to recovery has since been tumultuous. Fast forward 1 year since the establishment of the recovery plan, and we see that across the country, residents are struggling with sky-high unemployment rates, the astronomical cost of living, load shedding, and crime. We even face the looming risk of being grey-listed. It's extremely concerning. What's more, the very value of our sovereign currency has taken a hit as the president is fighting to keep his job amid destabilizing factional battles within the ANC. Within the ANC, you have an impact on our entire country. By implementing the recovery plan, the DA-led Western Cape government was not only responding to the crisis at the time, but anticipating further issues so that it could respond to the best of its ability. This is indeed a data-based and evidence-led approach. This department is prioritizing job creation as it is responsible for providing qualitative leadership to the provincial government through its intense focus on the ease of doing business, boosting investment and exports, enterprise development, work placement and skills development, as well as energy resilience. The importance of the job priority in the work that this department is doing is highlighted by the fact that the Western Cape government has allocated an outstanding 16 billion rand to it this year. It aims to achieve this through its adjusted budget of just 510 million rand for the 2022-23 financial year, and it is doing so despite a key source of the budget for this department being constrained, namely the provincial equitable share, which has declined by 5.619 million or 1.14%, which means, as the Minister has said, the department has to do more with much less. Despite this, Deputy Speaker, the department is continuing to accelerate the ease of doing business through initiatives, including the red tape reduction unit. It is important to note that while it is not government's job to create jobs, the DA-led government is creating an enabling environment for the private sector to ensure job creation. This is essential if we are to reduce the country's exorbitant burden of debt, thanks to the ANC-led national government, and ensure that more money is spent on empowering those most vulnerable in our society. The commitment to the ease of doing business is situated under the important program of Integrated Economic Development Services, which has been allocated 47.8 million for the adjustment period. In taking an evidence-led and data-based approach, this program has realigned its funding to the tune of 4.6 million for the year under review, for the 2023-24 financial year, to fund future financial years for the SMME Booster Fund project. This will ensure that funds are spent on supporting SMMEs across the province to flourish and to create more jobs. It will further enhance the governance standards within the department by preventing advance payments for the delivery that will only be affected by the following year. Deputy Speaker, the SMME project is a flagship project, and I've had the privilege of seeing its successes firsthand. It is tackling the job priority head-on by supporting SMMEs that are owned by women, that are owned by youth, that are owned by differently abled persons, as well as those who are based in townships and those who are based in rural communities. Of course, there's always more that needs to be done to empower the informal sector. But while the ANC argues that this department does little to support township economies, the adjustment bill shows that this is blatantly untrue. Of course, supporting SMMEs is not a silver bullet, and ensuring that we are supporting the growth of businesses requires that we are also developing a sustainable skills pipeline. This department does exactly that through its skills development and innovation program, which will receive nearly 95.9 million this year. I would like to commend the department on their foresight as they have further increased their revenue to the tune of 851 million rand for the Manufacturing, Engineering and Related Service Sector Educational Training Authority, or MOSETA, Skills Development Program. In essence, this project is supporting the creation of a skills pipeline for the tech-intensive jobs of the future, looking well ahead. Speaker, among the ways in which this department is taking a database and evidence-led approach to ensuring that it prioritizes jobs is through its focus on research. It is continuously looking for new and better ways to inform policy that will enable growth. The department has received an increase of 2 million rand, or 17.67%, for its knowledge management and 1.59 million for its research development sub-programs. This will focus on engaging with the private sector to ensure that government is responsive to their needs and provide economic policy, research and strategy development to the provincial government. This budget has been made available through the Economic Planning Program, which will receive approximately 150.4 million through this adjustment, which is a considerable increase from the main budget. But Speaker, creating jobs requires that we not only focus on the local economy, but also on the global economy, ensuring that we leverage every opportunity for growth. That is why approximately 74.8 million has been allocated through this adjustment to the Trade and Sector Development Program. This is a marked increase from the main budget, and it will see additional funding allocated towards prioritizing key job-creating sectors in our province, including agri-processing, manufacturing, and services, to increase exports and investment in those sectors. The program provides the support by addressing trade barriers, sector-specific research, and facilitating cooperation between stakeholders at different levels. In an ongoing effort to prioritize job creation, the department has further shifted 3 million from Tourism, Arts and Entertainment Program to the Provincial Department of Cultural Affairs and Sports. This program will consequently be allocated 71.5 million. The shift will put our province on the map and further market us as a global tourist destination, as it will be used to support the Cape Town E-Prix, which will take place in February 2023. This event is momentous and even historical, as it is the very first time that the FIA has held a race in South Africa since 1993, pre-democracy. While generations before my time have never had the privilege, we are of course all looking forward to it. And it is a massive vote of confidence, so to speak, in the DA-led Western Cape government. I want to commend Minister Wenger, HOD Dube, and the officials of this department for their hard work in ensuring qualitative leadership to the provincial economy. They are helping to identify economic opportunities and contributing to the administration's economic priority of jobs. In the last year alone, 203,000 jobs were created in the Western Cape. Unemployment, according to the QLFS, has also declined if you look at the expanded and official unemployment stats. And I think this is noteworthy for Member Nkontlo, who has alluded that unemployment is not being sufficiently addressed, as we specifically see that there is quarter-on-quarter decline in unemployment. But of course, this is a clear indication as well that the department is taking an evidence-led and data-based approach to its priority, job creation. I would also like to commend the members of the Standing Committee for their cordiality, professionalism, and unwavering commitment to uplifting the people of this province. Speaker, it gives me great pleasure to support this bill today. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now recognise the Honourable Minister Wenger.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I'll attempt to amalgamate the inputs in the debate. Thank you very much, honourable members, for your contributions. The PERA and the MERA are indeed guiding documents that we certainly use in our work. And yes, the Premier promised job creation in his maiden SOPA. That hasn't changed. But we can't continue on the same trajectory when the world around us has changed fundamentally. We had a once-in-a-100-year pandemic, which devastated jobs. So that means we have to adjust our sails, and that's exactly what the department did. It had a jobs now strategy and then a recovery plan. And now we're moving from recovery to growth, and therefore the growth for jobs strategy, because government needs to be agile and responsive to how the world changes to be able to tailor its responses. We don't have a one-size-fits-all, because that is how we're going to reach our objectives of job creation in this province. And just recently, last week, we heard in the Q3 jobs results that 85,000 jobs were created in the Western Cape in Q3. That's 203,000 jobs year on year. And when we talk about the growth for job strategy, we definitely include township and informal economy, because those are essential parts of our economy. So those are definitely an important part of the strategy that is being developed. In terms of trading permits and tourism, the safety unit, I think the honourable members in the wrong vote, in the wrong legislature. But let me just say this. We've allocated 1 billion rand for safety, for boots on the ground in communities that need it the most. Those communities that are most affected by crime. 1 billion rand, okay? So,
order, members. Order, members.
And in addition to that, the honourable member and myself had a conversation on the floor here in the suspension of proceedings about how important tourism is for jobs, especially for women in tourism, and how we both enjoyed the local tourism offerings. So the fact that 0.2% of the amount of the safety plan's budget has been put towards a collaboration with the City of Cape Town to ensure that tourists can enjoy tourism experiences in the province, really, I don't know how that could be criticized, because it's to ensure safe experience for you, and for you, and for you, as well as visitors that come and enjoy our tourism offerings from Gauteng, from the Eastern Cape, from KZN, and so on, and those visitors who come from outside our borders. We know that tourism creates jobs, and a part of that is having an enjoyable experience so that people come back and they enjoy our destination, and when they come back, they explore even further into the province. And so that is an important part of ensuring for our recovery to growth in the tourism sector as well. And then I think that responds then to most of the issues raised in the debate. I'd like to thank the members for their inputs. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, I'm going to suspend the House for lunch right now, because we'll have an afternoon program that we have to get through. The proceedings will be suspended and will resume at 2 o'clock. Thank you very much. You may ring the bells.